Anyway,
I don't know the answer, Vanessa, to your exact question, but to me, it seemed very reminiscent of Paul and I spent many summers at Fiddleman's Resort in South Haven, Michigan. And Mrs. Fiddleman was one of the entertainers. And I have a feeling that many of these family-owned resorts had a dramatic member of the family, male or female, who was rather the performer, the expected greeter, and the last hurrah. And this, for me, was reminiscent of that.
yeah.
I think she was like the queen bee of the entire resort. And that was her mantra, okay? This is what she did throughout all the years that they were there. And I think that the other woman from the other family, the Weingolds, I think I don't know if she resented her to a degree, but there was something there between the two of them.
Yeah, I agree with you a little bit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the more I think about this, I think our perceptions of these characters change. Like you thought Louise was narcissistic, and then you learn, about all of her miscarriages and her trials and tribulations. You think, ooh, Roger, she made a good deal, but then you find out he's selling Oxycontin. And also with the daughter, Maddie and Andrew, the boyfriend seemed terribly arrogant, and his parents were unbearable, and in the end he really comes through. I was surprised. I thought for sure that was going to go south.
Well, but his grandmother.
His grandmother,
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And so his grandmother was a real person, and maybe that's why the children were like, we're not getting into this stuff.
Right.
So they wanted to deny who they really were.
Yeah.
By pretending they were so uppity.
Yeah.
And this was below them.
Yeah, I found myself dealing with my own preconceptions and really had to catch myself. And in the back of my mind was a quote that I recently read maybe about a year ago, or was in a discussion group that came about, what do I not know? And I had to keep that, which really gave me a little openness in terms of more depth into the different characters and how quickly I fall the other way and take kind of a picture view of things before fleshing things out. So I kind of liked finding the character development and finding more depth in some of these people that I just thought were so superficial to start with. And on the other hand, maybe the reverse as well.
What was the gay son's name?
Michael, was that
Michael? Thank you. Do you think that his reveal of being gay and their what the Fanny, do you think that was realistic? That reveal was realistic?
Well, for the time it took place, it was probably not as accepting, and they seem to have known he was gay, but they never acknowledged it.
Right. Well, the grandparents Fanny and Amos didn't know.
Right. But the parents never acknowledged it either, though.
Yeah.
Not openly. No, not openly.
But then his father ultimately wanted to make up to him and make up to the daughter for all those years that he was, more involved with his business than he was with them.
Again, is
I
that
thought
realistic?
that was very sweet. I don't know how realistic that is either, but it was very sweet.
Exactly.
But it was the reason he came to the hotel, because that kind of brought him back to his family.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good thing to happen for him, for that character anyway.
Right.
I mean, again, they all changed. The husband who came back and he became more sympathetic to his family. Phoebe, the young daughter who was like an influencer, but she was using it for good. And Zach, who was really kind of following in the footsteps of Brian, his uncle, he becomes more serious and involved and, finds purpose in life. And those are all feel good. Those are all feel good. I mean, Roger's not a feel good. Roberta.
Yeah. He's the only one who wasn't a feel
Yeah,
good.
right.
He was a feel bad,
Yeah.
bad boy.
The partner that had passed away becomes so
Benny.
present. Yeah,
Amen.
Benny
Benny.
is so
Benny.
present throughout the whole story, isn't he?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you kind of wonder, had he not passed away, because the relationship between the two men and the secrets that they held, which actually touched me, because I'm always intrigued by a men's friendship that is very intimate and really supportive and open in terms of, sharing. I mean, he obviously told his partner that they were having trouble getting pregnant and he needed this money. And so I thought that, he was idealized, but there was something really good about that. Their friendship, these two men were really good men, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
They were brothers. They were like brothers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it, it was interesting, the two boys had a crush on Laura and, what happened with that. But I also think that they grew up, it was definitely a different time. And I keep thinking, it's a part in Dirty Dancing at the end where the owner of whatever that club was called in Dirty Dancing, he says to the black band leader, with travel to Europe getting so cheap, kids aren't going to want to come and spend the summer with their parents. That it was the beginning of air travel and travel. And he knew, in the movie, and of course, hindsight's 2020, he knew it was a dying opportunity. The interesting thing is, and I do have some pictures to show you at the end, some of these places are now filled with super religious Jews, and they can bring up all their kosher food and have separate seating and separate swimming and all the thing, and adhere to all of their very strict
They have that in
rules.
Lake Geneva too. There's a resort up in Lake Geneva that
A Jewish one.
that does that for the holidays,
Yeah. Well, that's different.
Yeah, I know that is different.
That's different. A lot of places turn over for like Passover so that you don't have to kosher your kitchen. The
Right.
Biltmore in Phoenix, it's in Arizona. It's in Phoenix. I mean, and it's super expensive, but people want to do that. And kashrut is one thing, but when you turn over the swimming pool, for me, that's a line in the sand. When you can only go swimming at certain times. Paula.
I think, and I can't remember the third A, but there was a mention in the book about the demise of the Jewish Alps, and it was due to the 3 A's, and it was air conditioning, air travel,
Assimilation.
That's
and
right.
yeah.
Yes, that is exactly it. That is exactly it. Well, I forgot about air conditioning because again, both, these resorts and camps. I mean, back in starting in the early 1900s, there were Jewish camps in the Catskills because kids would be in the city and they would catch polio, and they tried to get the Jewish kids out in the fresh air, and they were called fresh air camps. And Federation supported them, and they were the precursor for all of the Jewish camps that we have today.
Interesting.
So, and the same, yeah, Merle.
I thought it was very realistic that parents of the older generation, grandparents and parents, do not give the young people credit for originality and creativity. And
Yeah.
Phoebe had so many great ideas besides goat yoga and bee pollen facials and all of the great things, and using hashtags, Instagram and Twitter to advertise the hotel. She was brilliant. And I thought that was realistic. And also there was something about parenting, and I can't remember which one said it, that you could have this children going to the same schools, same parents, same affection toward the children, and yet they don't turn out the same. They just are. You don't know how they're going to turn out. And I thought that was very insightful and true.
Yeah. I mean, skipping to the end, I love the way the book ended, the epilogue. And I liked, again, that they could look back and say they did need a website. You did have to make reservations. Things that Phoebe thought would keep them exclusive, which perhaps at the beginning it did. But, they kind of showed that, the first, it wasn't as easy as it looked. And I felt grateful that Brian could bring his expertise to the plate, because I think he was just undervalued over the years.
Definitely was.
So were the two little boys his child by that girl that he had? The one boy was his?
Yeah.
And who was the second child?
The second child, I think, was Maddie and Zach's,
Okay,
which
because
would
they
make,
were cousins or
yes, ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cousins-ish, yeah.
Cousins-ish.
Mhm, mhm.
Matchmaking and romance were an integral part of the Catskills experience. Talk about the various romances and romantic indiscretions in the book. How does the older generation view dating and marriage? What did you think of Peter? Oh, it's Peter, not Brian. Peter Weingold's relationship with Angela. What did you think about that? Realistic. Who's he going to date in the Catskills?
Well, his love for Amy was so
Right.
covered up.
Yeah. Right. So buried.
Yeah.
There's Amy and Brian.
Right.
It was more of a physical, I think that was more of a physical attraction.
Right.
I think they stayed
I mean,
together.
Peter really
though.
loved her,
Yeah,
I think.
They were together.
Yeah.
Oh, this is wrong. Peter Weingold didn't have a relationship with Angela. Brian did.
Brian.
Right.
I'm
right.
reading
Confused.
that's where I was like, what? That's wrong. Okay. Yeah, a number of scandals and secrets, and Roberta's brought this up, both financial and interpersonal, are revealed during the course of the novel. How do the characters react to the revelations? Discuss the importance of the catastrophic July 4th barbecue. How is it seen by the different characters in the book? That's the barbecue that Zach thinks he started.
Yeah, he thought he started the fire, right?
Right.
Mhm.
But
I don't
Could be
remember
admitted
thinking
there.
too much about the barbecue more in retrospect, when they would refer to it earlier, I just, didn't zero into that. Maybe I just missed it. And I also, I wish that Marcia Rosenbaum, the one who, from the Stella, Marcia Rosenbaum was on tonight, because she grew up in the Catskills.
oh,
It'd be interesting to hear, her view of this. It was certainly not, from what I understand, this lifestyle, more academic lifestyle.
did she live there year round?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know anyone who, that's like saying you live in a Economawalk or, Lake Delton, wherever Camp Shy is,
Someone has to live in Oconomowoc. Come on.
Yeah, I know, but not a lot of Jews do.
No,
Yeah.
no, I agree there 100%.
When you talk about romance, I had a very close personal relationship with who since retired many years ago, with a physician who, when he was going through med school, was a waiter at the Catskills. And very handsome man, even in middle age, and I can imagine as a young man. And he would tell me that he would have like a date after breakfast, at lunch, at dinner, after midnight buffet. he's lucky he didn't die that summer from last week in romance that, you know, so he was probably, how old would you be going to medical school? Like 22, 23? And he said what would go on at the Concord, he said was unimaginable. And the mothers throwing their daughters at a, you know, Jewish doctor.
At the
He
good
was-
catches. Yeah, at the good catches. Yeah.
Uh,
I
Andy,
remember, I
yeah,
remember
Sandy.
my sister, my middle sister, who was 14 years older than me, was very shy. And my aunt took her up to the Catskills and they stayed at Grossinger's. I think that's in the Catskills.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And she met a man up there and he was from the family. I can't remember the family name now. I think his name was Mark, but they owned Bartons candies, which was really a big deal in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And well, there weren't that many companies that made candy, really good quality candy for Passover.
There you go.
And he wanted to marry her. And we thought it's a sure thing. And I used to read, I was just a little kid, but I used to read their letters and everything because there was no iPhone, you know, it was just really writing letters. And
Yeah.
I thought it was so romantic. And we were sure she was going to marry him. And then she came back and she married someone unbelievable. She married someone who was very badly crippled. An older man here that she knew in Chicago. She decided that that was who she really loved. He was from a very frum family and she had a hard marriage, but a good marriage. They were married 41 years and they were good for each other. But we always remember that exciting year when we thought she was going to become a rich New Yorker.
Right, with lots of chocolate candy.
Yeah,
Paula?
I never Passover. I never see Barton's candy without thinking about her.
How could you not? I'm
Yeah.
gonna think about it.
So, you know, it's pretty colorful containers, but the candy with the almond in the middle. Oh,
They're delicious.
Our grandmother's mantra was that it was just as easy to marry a rich Jewish boy as a poor Jewish boy. That's just the way it was. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what my Aunt Peppy said as well. My husband Arthur worked at the Neville, one of these places, and one of the things that he talks about, he was in college, and you know, he, for those who you don't know him, he's very tall and still very skinny. He was very skinny, and he just ate. He could eat and eat and eat and eat. And, you know, he was the help, you know, would go into the refrigerators at night and, you know, eat all these desserts. And, you know, certainly I think when they describe it, you know, the borscht and the blintzas and all of the food, which, you know, maybe we make for holidays, but people don't eat that every day. You can't eat that heavy every day.
Especially in the
And-
summer and in the summer too.
Yeah.
They
The
did.
brisket,
They did.
yeah, Merle.
Well, I thought was one of the funniest scenes was where George, the waiter, was serving them the food. And he brings out things like salmon spread, herring, fried liver, schmaltz, all of this stuff. Kids look at it and they say, do you have anything vegan or paleo?
Right.
Nobody's knowing what they're talking about. So I thought that was, you know, another thing with the generations that was very funny.
Yeah, agreed. Brenda, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good. I'm just enjoying listening.
Hearing us. Okay, Abby, go ahead.
parts of it reminded me a little bit of some of the scenes of Mrs. Maisel in terms of maybe not the attire there, but yeah, no, there were some scenes where they were, it was probably in the Catskills. Also, I just wanted to mention that when I saw the coincidences of the two groups reading the same book, and somehow I hit on a book on Kindle called something about an independent woman, and it's written by somebody, Tanya Grossinger. And it was a Grossinger that's related to the Grossingers. And apparently it's not a very happy story where she was related and she was living there. I stopped reading it because I wanted to continue. I wanted to get my homework done. So I think there's more to the story than we want to know, maybe.
I'm sure there is.
Mhm.
I'm looking it up. But it did remind me of when Amy goes to get her hair done and they have a fire drill and she looks like a poodle, and that's when the hairdresser comes out, and the hairdresser who ends up hooking up with Michael, and they use Grindr, which is a dating app. And if there's any questions on the social media part, it's always fine to ask. But that part was, and she had to wear a hat, and I never got a perm. I had curly hair, but perms were a thing, so when I think, when you start discussing the book, there are a lot of really funny things happening. So, what was I gonna say? For those who summered in the Catskills, well, I don't know that any of us did. Did the description of the resort, the scenery, the food, the activities? What about the activities? Match memories of your time.
One of the women in our group this morning did spend a lot of summers in the Catskills, and she talked about the fact that she would bring her ice skates when she was a little girl. So there was definitely that frozen pond or whatever it was.
Right.
Describe the food being above and beyond all the time.
Yeah. Paula?
Andy and I spent, Andy, how long we were there? 2 weeks at Shawanga Lodge. So we were at this little, very nice resort, and they still have a website up if you want to see some pictures of it. The cabins were $14.50 a week. They still have their, per family with a private bath. I mean, we're very modest accommodations, but activities, 3 meals a day, midnight snacks, the stage show.
Right.
Shuffleboard, swimming, tennis, racquetball, but
so,
it was just like this.
Right. So these are wrong one. Oh no, let's see. I gotta stop now. What I have for you are pictures from Kutcher's, and there's actually a movie, which if I can get a hold of it, I'll let you know, because it's really, well, when you see these pictures, you'll be able to see. It's just like, this is what it looks like now.
Oh, yeah.
There's to Kutcher's.
Pictures.
There's the,
Yeah.
and then, you begin, there's the beautiful, whatever, the grand finale. And like, you can just, I feel like there's all the people who were there.
Oh, I like the editing machine.
Yeah. Or even the old coffee machine.
The old coffee.
Wheel.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's just, there they are.
There they are.
Yeah. But as this goes on, the pool is caving in, and look at that phone. I mean,
Where is this?
It's called Kutcher's, and it's in the Catskills.
Oh, it is in the Catskills. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost as if someone yelled fire drill and they all left.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Vanessa,
The fire.
is this a documentary though? Because I found,
Yes.
I
we
was
saw
just,
it.
yeah, I saw it too, but it was about families that rented these cabins for the whole summer,
Mm-hmm.
and their kids would drop them off because they were all, this was like towards the end what was happening was they couldn't afford to keep the place open anymore, and everybody
Exactly.
who
Look,
had
there's
worked
the
there-
ice skates.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's,
Exactly.
you know, and there's, I mean, so that 2000. So, you know, it's
Yeah.
been 20 years.
Yes.
Anyway, it's,
Vanessa,
yeah.
I don't think anyone's as old as me because we used to go to Oakton Manor. I don't know if
Oh,
any,
Oh, God, yeah.
and also Nippersink.
Nipperssink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nippersink. I went to Nippersink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that. And I've been to, and I did go to the Catskills, but we didn't stay at a fancy hotel. It was a very nice hotel. It was called the Pine Hill Country Club. It sounded probably more glamorous than it was.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got 3 meals a day, you got dressed up for dinner, and they did have some activities. It wasn't just this, it just wasn't as elaborate as some of those other
Yeah.
places were.
I mean,
There's a film, excuse me, it's called The Four Seasons Lodge, and it's based on Holocaust survivors who all went to
wait,
the
is this a
Catskills.
book? Is this a
No,
book?
it's a documentary. It's a
Oh,
movie.
okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I watched. It was really interesting.
it's
Yeah.
called
Four
Four
Seasons Lodge.
Seasons.
Four Seasons Lodge.
I'll have to look for that.
Bef-
The
I was
books,
just gonna
yeah.
say, before I got married, the Concord was still in existence and they had singles weekends. And since I wasn't married, this was advertised as how to meet a husband and like the place to go. So I went with a girlfriend and it really was like how to meet a husband. Guys from New York were, I had like a proposal and a half, and the woman I went with, she had a proposal, not necessarily desirables, but it was like, and the funniest thing was you would sit around the pool at numbered chairs, and I might look over and say, we like the guys that were at 21 and 22, and we would tip the pool person to the next day, would you put us at 21 and 20, near 21 and 20. Meantime, 21 and 22, like the girls over at 49 and 46, and the same in the dining room. So you would come in, hoping next to the guy who looked good, and everybody was different. But it was, those were like the waning years of the
Yeah.
Concord.
I have a girlfriend who was very observant and she met her husband there. And she was engaged and married by the time she was 19.
Mhm.
And she's got grandkids who are 15, 16 years old. I mean, I certainly can see it. The book's opening pages include a quote from the singer-songwriter Peter Allen, "Everything old is new again." How does that phrase relate to the happenings in last summer at the Golden Hotel? Merle.
Well, I think when they had their auction at the end,
Oh,
there
yeah.
was this real, want and need to get some of those things and make them new again, like stealing the sign in front and
Yes.
changing it from the Golden Hotel to the Golden Motel and making it new. I thought that was very clever. And also the idea of opening a Catskill museum, which was a very great, clever idea, getting all the photos from the people and all the memories and making it new so that other people would come and see this. And the whole thing reminded me of a resort I went to in Weekapaug, Rhode Island, which is right near Newport, where the American castles are, and Providence, and was this huge, huge building. And their claim to fame was there were no landline phones in the room. You don't lock the rooms. there was no Wi-Fi or anything like that. There was no air conditioning. And the claim to fame of this restaurant was that you would just throw open your windows and the breeze from the Atlantic would come in. Well, that only lasted for a little while because when air conditioning became popular, they revamped the whole thing. Weekapaug Inn is now a normal hotel, the huge, huge hotel. So I was there with my daughter visiting a friend of hers who worked in the restaurant as a waiter as his summer job while they were in college. And he explained to us this beautiful restaurant with all the white tablecloths. There were people who had the best view. So we said, how did they get that table? And he said, oh, those are the people who come every year and they get the preferred tables with the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I failed to mention that when Arthur worked at the Neville, he was a lifeguard. However, they drafted him because he had, if you work there, you live there. And they'd have shows and he had to be a waiter for and it would be like after theater and there'd be a big rush. And he said, he has said before, I would never be a good waiter because he couldn't get all the orders straight. And I think they finally took him off of that. But you can imagine it all after reading this or Dirty Dancing. You can just, or having been to Nipperssink, it just unfolds in such a, and it's nostalgia. It's nostalgia. And I also think that, that last summer when they know it's closing and everyone's posting on social media and, all of a sudden and I think it was, Louise or Fanny, where have they been the whole time? Now is the time when they're going to pony up for this. So, there's something very, almost sweet and innocent. And obviously not quite as innocent. Yeah, Sandy.
I sort of remember my cousins took me for several summers to the Moraine Hotel in Highland Park.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Later, they gave up on that and they started going to the Edgewater Beach Hotel for the summer. They would rent for a month. They would stay at the Edgewater. I think I told you about this, that how they come in, with breakfast in bed there, because these cousins were wealthy and they kind of took me under their wing. But I remember the Moraine.
Yeah.
Right. The Moraine is still there. I think they finally redid it.
It was a different Moraine. It was a little further east. It was on the other side of the street, closer to the lake. Not the Moraine that's there now.
Okay.
Same
That's a
name.
different one.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, the Edgewater is the Pink Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
When I was in high school, my brother worked at Schwartz Resort in Elkhart Lake.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I went up, took the train up there and visited him for a weekend. But he worked there so that he could live there that summer. And my experience for that weekend was more in terms of the dancers that are hired in Dirty Dancing,
Yeah.
and everything that they had to tolerate from the guests, and how they were treated. But it was a similar, I think it's called the Astroff now. It's been a couple different names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we were at the Astroff probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And the grounds of the Astroff are actually where the Harand camps were.
Right.
You'll see all the rocks there with the kids' names on it. That was really sweet to see.
Right.
Schwartz's Resort, what I've forgotten, we went there with my family and I remember the band leader there, Arnie Mankato. My mother got him to play at my wedding. It didn't occur to me until you said that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was easy. The other thing I was going to say, Vanessa, is when you talked about things that are old or new again, I think for me in that book, it was the memories. So the kids wanted to revisit some of those experiences they had when they were going to leave or their last visit there to make some of those memories almost new again. They maybe didn't want to keep going there all the time, but when you have those kinds of experiences when you're younger, they just stick with you. And I think they wanted to experience that again.
Yeah.
Renew. Yeah.
Yeah. I think each generation looked at the hotel with different eyes. The founders, you know, it's their legacy. The parents, the middle generation, it's their childhood and the fun growing up. And, you know, for the younger generation, I think, you know, by building that motel, it's in the city, but it's got the museum. It's really a continuation of the legacy.
Mhm, mhm.
Merle?
Well, I was very upset during the scene where Brian reads the ballots, you know, he tells them the result. And Amos, everyone thinks Amos is having a heart attack. And it said, the quote at that point was something like, it was the closing of a business, but it seemed like the closing of a life. And I thought, oh my God, he's having a heart attack. But then it wasn't a heart attack. It was a panic attack.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, I was already to put this book down. I mean, if he died because they closed the hotel, I thought that was too upsetting. But I think bringing Roger in, that was nice that he came and looked at him. And it was a very important scene. How
Yeah.
did the young people react? How did the old people react?
And they didn't give away the vote.
No, no.
Which I think is good. And I'm glad that they didn't know what and you know.
But
That-
what Louise voted both yes and no.
Right.
Right.
One vote was Benny, yeah.
She had 2 votes.
And one vote was for Amy.
Mhm.
So she
Yeah.
voted her conscience.
Yeah, this is, how do you think each family member voted in the ballot that decided the fate of the Golden? What do you think of the outcome of that vote and how the families balance preserving tradition versus the need for
You
change?
always call when I'm doing my book club.
All right, well, let me
You didn't know.
there we go. So do you like the ending of the book? Do you like, you know, what happened?
Well, I
I
think
like
it's like
because
the
it was
family
hopeful.
traditions. I mean, it kept the family in the business, which was really kind of an endearing thing, because when you think about it, you know, that's the family. The family is the business.
Well, many family businesses don't make 3 generations.
Exactly.
It's the exception, not the norm.
Right.
For
Speaking of family, my sister always calls me during the Zoom book club meetings. I told her, I said, you did it again.
Thank you, Ellen. The Moraine Hotel was on Lake Michigan, Moraine Road meets Sheridan Road, north of Uptown Highland Park. Moraine Park is there now. Okay. Well, we'll have to look at that. Merle.
And I thought it was very helpful that Amy was able to move from the 9-bedroom house in
Mhm.
1,500
Oh, right.
square foot apartment, which is not so terrible, but she was able to do it. And she wasn't mourning the loss of the mansion. She felt like she was starting over and she was going to do it. So that was really helpful.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I thought the description of the mansion with Roger was a sterile place. And I think she's in a better place. I know she's divorced and, you know, Roger was a whatever, but I thought her character, you know, really went through something, changed and came through stronger.
Mhm.
That's my feeling.
Mhm.
I was happy for her.
Yeah.
And happy for the kids. I mean, in a certain way, it was a happy ending, right?
Yeah.
Didn't she stay with Brian also? They were kind of together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was good
Because-
for him.
When they revealed that Angela and that she was pregnant, I was like, "Oy." Because you know, I didn't think they were a good pair, and obviously, you know, the author set it up so you think that he and Amy are a good pair, but and that they. I think that's also a modern thing that Angela got pregnant and they're still co-parenting, but they didn't feel the need to get married. And that's in 2022, that's the name of the game.
I like
didn't wanna get married.
what the author had Angela say, that she needed more from the relationship than he could give, so she'd rather
Yes.
go alone.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
I
And
like
good-
that. a lot.
Good for her. I mean, again, just the way women are portrayed through the generations. And you can look at Louise and Fanny all the way, through Phoebe and Maddie, and they're just more independent and stronger. Although Maddie did have that one part where they thought she's just going to marry this guy and he's rich. And in the end, I like it even more as I talk about it because, I like the characters, and when you don't like the characters, it's not easy.
Yeah, they were pretty much all likable characters except for Roger,
Exactly.
Yeah.
which is fine.
Right.
It makes more enjoyable to read a book when you
Right.
like the
Yeah.
people that you're reading
Right.
about.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, so let me just quickly. This book came out in May. And it's called, I finished it and it's really fantastic. It's called The Latecomer. And it's already, the rights have been sold to television. So you
Wow.
know that it's an interesting book. And it's by Jean Hanf Korlitz. And she also wrote the plot. And I was talking with Lynn Frank, and she said the plot is fabulous, which I'm going to go read that as well. But let's do this for next month.
Okay.
And
Great.
I will send it out to everybody. And let's look at the dates. Let's go to the calendar. So September, October.
27th? The last Thursday in the month?
Yeah, I know already that I have to take my mother to a doctor's appointment. Could we do October 3rd? Would that be okay?
October 3rd or November?
November
3rd?
3rd.
November 3rd.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's okay with me.
Because then, I stay out there, I have dinner with her and so on and so forth. So, I gotta
course.
go with her.
It's great.
Yeah.
Now, this is a brand new book, you said?
Yes, yeah,
That could make it more difficult to get, especially from the
I
library.
think
Right.
I saw it on Kindle this week, very, very reasonable.
okay. Let me go look.
I know it's available on Audible because I recently listened to it and loved it. So,
Oh, you did? Did you love it?
uh-huh.
Likable characters?
Yeah.
They become more so.
But a lot to talk about, a lot
to-
to
A lot
talk
to
about.
talk about.
And I like this book, but The Latecomer is the writing is really beautiful.
It is, and it's very profound, and
Yes.
it ends on a happy note.
Yes,
So
Agreed.
like,
Oh,
it's not
goody,
a
we
downer.
found that.
Lots of happy endings.
Vanessa,
yes.
maybe somebody can help me. Next week, I'm going to New York. My oldest grandson is getting married.
Oh,
And his fiance said, I said, well, what do we wear to the wedding? Because it's, I think, what I would call a casual wedding. They're getting married real early in the morning, next Friday. And then the party is like 11 to 3 or 11 to 4 at a private club. But I said, what do they wear? I wondered if I needed to go out and buy something. Oh, they dress like New Yorkers. So I don't know what they have.
That helps a lot.
Black, all black.
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 I think whatever you would wear to shul is fine.
Yeah.
Black or navy or cream. That's what
Exactly.
Okay.
At
Yep.
11
How
in the
long?
morning?
What-
I don't know. My
what
daughter
length?
lives there. I could ask her. I don't think black at 11 in the morning you need to do
Oh,
on a
that's true.
Friday.
That's true.
But you
But
can wear You can
I
wear,
think it probably means whatever you're comfortable in.
you
yeah.
can wear a pretty black skirt and a suit jacket or whatever. you're
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever you wear to shul.
And
Yeah.
you, I
You can
see
wear
you have
black-
pretty
you can wear black
earrings
slacks
on.
with a pretty top.
Mhm.
A
Yeah.
colorful top with black.
Some of us have not been in person to show in a long time, so I have
Yeah.
what that is. I mean, this is the first time that I really did not dress up to Zoom. So I don't know.
Sandy, you'll have to report back to us on what you wore and what other people were wearing.
You just have to
Okay.
remember your panties, that you're not on Zoom.
Yeah, you are correct.
Right.
You need a skirt, right?
Right.
And
So-
wear a mask, because
Yeah.
lately weddings have been such huge
Super
super
spreaders.
spreaders.
Agreed.
Huge.
Told us
Yeah, I'm
that,
doing
but we have to do, that morning, we have to do a test before we leave
Wonderful.
our hotel.
Good.
And then the next day, there's a party at the parents' house, the girls' parents' home in Brooklyn. And we have to do another test
Good for
an
them.
hour before we go there.
Good.
Good for them. Yeah, definitely.
Good for them.
It's great seeing everyone. Hope to
Mazel
see
tov.
you at
See you, Vanessa.
at services. The traditional greeting between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is Gamar Chatima Tova, may you be inscribed in the book of life. And I'll see everybody next week. And I'll send out an email tomorrow.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
See you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.